All right, so today let's just have some real good open conversation. I do want to get into like talking finances in the house. We can swing it from like a regular. I know how you rock already. You're gonna be very Jared, matter of factly. Like this is what we got to do. Let's give them some tangible strategies when we thinking about um, talking finances, and then the other piece of it too is like just conversation in general around. I want to get into kind of like things that we haven't been taught that we have to teach ourselves that we have to dig deeper in, talking a little bit
Hmm.
more about it being preparation versus discipline. So, that kind of conversation.
Hmm.
Sound like we got a winner, winner, winner. Welcome to another episode of Classic Talks, where we subscribe to a next play mentality, engaging in crucial conversations, challenging each other to take our very next step, sharing common knowledge to improve common wealth, becoming a clearer version of ourselves so that we can embrace growth. We must accept the process so we can appreciate the outcome, one conversation at a time. I am Dr. Classic. Let's talk about it. Yo, 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 I am Dr. Classic and I am here to talk about it. I'm joined in the boardroom by the Mr. Finance himself. Thank you very much, as usual, Mr. McFarland, for being here with us. Today on the boardroom, we want to have some good conversation. We got a couple things lined up. Want to talk finances in the home. What are we talking about in the house? When we think boardroom concepts, what we're learning about what we learned, well, especially when it comes to finances. Even we just talked a little bit about it when you're talking health. Some of the things that we've just come to know and learn and just do as a matter of fact or habit or generationally because it's been done that way doesn't seem like the way we should be doing it. So, how are you? What's going on? What's happening? Welcome to the boardroom. What's going on, Mr. Finance?
I'm good, Dr. Classics. Thanks for having me as usual. I'm ready to get into it. So wherever you want to start, let's get to it.
So let me say this. I've been having some really good conversations with people. So, that's me all day. Dr. Classic Talks. Like, I want to get into the room and space and talk to people. And one of the things that have been really hot on the item, and it's probably because of the movement of money, is what I'm thinking has been we've been talking stocks, been talking, how do you set money aside and how do you build wealth has been a really good conversation I've been having lately. We have exchanged information through memes. We've seen the net worth of the black family compared to the net worth of the white family. Just really wanting to talk about what should we be talking about in the homes when we are educating our kids, our close circles around us, when we're meeting together to have our happy hour moments since everything is kind of opening back up in the world. What should the conversation be focused on, especially when we think finances?
For me, I think that we need to start very primitive and we need to start very basic. We need to start having those conversations just about what is money, something that simple. What is money, right? Why do everyone strive to have so much money? What's the purpose behind it? What's the why behind it? And I think that we need to have these conversations earlier, right? I have two under two basically, and I'm gonna have those conversations when they're about 3, 4. They're gonna understand some basic concepts that, man, I probably didn't even learn until I was in college or at least almost out of high school, right? So they need to learn that now in the formative years, so that becomes a part of their DNA and who they are. So they can learn to speak money, as my man Tyrone Ross say, in a capitalistic a nation or country that we are.
And you said it, you hit it right on the head. Like we learned it at such a later, and I'm saying we, like the generation that we come up with, we learned it at such a later pulse. I feel like than some of our peers that I now run into in the boardrooms, in the meeting rooms. Their conversation about money just kind of changes over, and like we got into a good space where you chose it as a career. So we've had really good conversations early. But when I think about talking to my child, now I have the understanding that, hey, I got to talk to her about what it means to put money to the side and let money work for you, not putting it necessarily to the side in banks where we see banks are taking our money and investing our money. So it's not even sitting in the banks. I can't pull up to a bank. I go to Chase. I can't pull up to Chase right now and say, give me $20,000 of my funds. I got to call that ahead just to make sure that that's in there, because my money is sitting in somebody else's portfolio right now, making money for JP, Morgan Chase. So when I'm having conversation with her, it's more or less, and what I'm doing as a parent for her. I have to set money to aside for you for a an account or IRA Roth account. So we have the same kind of starting points for our kids, that we can see that across America, across the nation, that's what's happening with a lot of kids when we're talking money at home. I got out of the Poor Dad Rich Dad. We're ahead of the curve if you're talking finances at the dinner table, but there are people talking about things that are keeping us in a poor mentality, talking about having one or two jobs. And we see the people that are working harder with more jobs have less money. They're really less happy after they get their desires, because they're fearful of not having the money, and they go right back to work. So you work in two jobs for a long period of time, and that's really the period of your life, versus what can you be doing now to sustain and have your money that you're making grow for you, versus it's just sitting there until you spend it and then go back and what they call it, the rat race, start all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, that whole mindset of having two jobs so I can make ends meet, like I think that's dead in the water. And it's been the wrong thing that's been perpetuated upon us. What we need to focus on is honing our skills and our crafts. So you need to get good at making money at whatever you're doing and become the absolute best at that, right? Now, I'm not talking about adding different streams of income. We always hear you need 7 streams of income, average millionaire, all these cliche quotes, but in actuality, you have to get good at making money. So if that requires advanced degrees, certifications, maybe you're taking a trade, starting an apprenticeship, and you go on to become a master plumber, master electrician, et cetera. That's what you need to focus on. Learn how to earn money first, and then you can do and deploy those dollars and do the things that you're supposed to do with money. And it's a process, right? And we always want to skip ahead and say, oh, I got to buy Apple stock, I want to do this, when we haven't even covered the basics. No one's talking about the percentage of Americans, and especially the ones in our community, that are unbanked or underbanked, right? We're not even talking about that. We're not even talking about how to use a banking facility the right way. We're not talking about all the billions of dollars they make on overdraft fees. We're not talking about all the services that are offered at our local banking branch. We need to start having those conversations on the basics first. The stocks and the market's always going to be there, but until we change our mentality and have a mindset shift on what's important, nothing's going to change. And it all starts at the dinner table, starts in the home. It starts with your kids while they're young. It starts with even reaching up to older parents who maybe been caught in this cycle of traditionalism that haven't allowed them to obtain or grow wealth. Starting to tell them like, hey mom, hey dad, with all due respect, have you heard about this, or have you thought about this? Let's make the next 20, 30 years of your life the best 20, 30 of your life.
Right. And we may be teaching a concept that's different than what folks are used to hearing, because when one of the principles I got was like, you don't want to work your whole life as an earner, because the earners are really taxed. When you hear the saying, like one of the politicians say something like, yeah, we're going to tax the wealthy or the rich, it's really the higher earners that they're talking about taxing, because until this new wealth tax that's now being put on the docket to be voted on. Before that happened, when they say things like we're going to tax the wealthy, they mean the higher earners. So we're talking about people who are right now essentially following the American dream model. They're going to school, they're getting education, they're getting the good jobs, they're becoming the doctors, the lawyers, they're becoming the CPAs, they're becoming the folks in the community that are high earning positions. And those are the people that are being taxed more. It's not your Elon Musk and your Trumps and your Bezos.
Right.
Those folks are not being taxed more. So when we think of like this concept of how are you talking about money, how are you becoming a owner versus a earner? How are you shifting liabilities out of those columns and putting them in assets? How do we hear things like your home is a liability? It's not an asset to you, unless there are other things that are coming in. Like if you have rental properties in your asset columns that are taking care of paying for some of the liabilities, then you're talking about moving money and changing. But this is a different concept of conversation, especially to some of the audience that we cater to. I'm glad that we get a chance to have these boardroom talks, because it may not be as simple as go to school, get a good job, have good benefits, and then you get to retire, because Social Security, for the looks of it, we may not even be able to benefit from Social Security. So what else are we going to benefit for? We're like really hurrying to put money into a place that may not be available to us. If we go through another soft touch economically of what we're seeing with the pandemic, we are talking about wiping out an entire class of people, and it affects the middle class of people. You're poor or you're rich in these new conversations. That's a new concept, and that's something that we really should be having conversations about as little as our kids at the dinner table, with our spouses, with our community friends, because it's going to make a difference on how you spend your money, how you look at money like a tool versus something you're fearful of not have.
Man, you said a lot there, which is a lot of jewels. So thank you for saying that. The other thing I want to add is that people have to understand how the tax code was set up. Everybody gets mad about Trump and these guys aren't paying taxes because they don't know what to do. They act like that is something that is just exclusive for those people when the tax code is written for everybody. They're just not in the know, and they don't know how to maneuver and operate. Um, yeah, absolutely. Those that's earning money, W-2 income, you get taxed the hardest. If you're getting passive income, you're getting royalties, you're getting dividend income, you're getting capital gains. All of those streams of incomes are taxed at a lower tax rate than what W-2 income is taxed at. So if you just remove yourself from the situation and think about this, it's incentivizing you to be a business owner, to conduct business, not go work for someone. Now, don't get this twisted. I'm not telling you not to go get a job. That's bad. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to understand how taxes work, how money works, and how our nation, a capitalistic country, is set up, and how to benefit and win from the rules that's already been established. It's really that simple.
Really that simple. And hopefully that concept sounds simple enough for at a minimum, you go and learn about it, go and grab some information about it really. And I picked it back up. They had a gold edition, and I thought I had my copy just to show. I may flash one across the screen, or link it below, but the updated version of that Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I forgot about that when I read it before. It didn't make as much sense because I was at a different place in my life when I first became a teacher and was thinking about it. I remember that book coming across my desk for some kind of read, and just reading it because I'm reading stuff. I read it through, and I got the concept and understood it, but I didn't really read it with purpose. I just read it because it was something to read. It was reading material. Now that I'm reading it and I have a purpose around it, I think it's a really good place to start. It actually starts off from a perception of a kid, which made me bring in this conversation too, to say, what are we telling our children about how money is used? One thing that I've learned, and we have conversations with wealthy people all the time. Your book of business, and how you deal with the people that are helping funds that, the conversations are based around what can this tool do for me. That's what I've learned about it. Wealthy people know two things: they know what they want, and they know how to use money. They know how to use money to make money. A lot of people that we're talking about, they don't really have jobs. Everybody we're talking about, like, oh, who has the millions and billions, they don't really have a physical job. They're not an earner, they're an owner. And if we can get into that conversation more of, and sooner, of what is it that we can do, what can we own, and it doesn't have to be that you need to own a business and run Amazon. It could be that you want to own land. It can be that you want to own real estate. It can be, it doesn't have to be your passion. You can still go and work and do something else, but that's when your dollars are working for you. That's really when people say, I went to sleep and made money in my sleep. I'm making money while I'm laying here. It's a true statement. A lot of people are doing that. And they're doing it by the droves, because there's money out there to be made. There's money out there to get to. It's really about how you look at. I think you said it best. How do you earn money? How do you become an earner in a way that it you understand the principle and the value of it, so it's not working against you. You're not under fear using it as a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no shortage of money out here. You just got to go out and get it. Matter of fact, there's more money, which could be bad actually. There's more money in circulation than there's ever been in history. I was listening to a podcast this morning while I was getting dressed. Um, in the early 80s, so I want to tie this correlation together. In the early 80s, around 80, 81, first of all, Ronald Reagan was president, right? When he took over, do you know that the federal debt was less than $1 trillion? less than $1 trillion, 1980. Also, you got to understand what came out in the early 80s was the employer sponsored 401k plan that allowed people to put money away pre-tax because they sold the whole notion of when you retire, you'll be in a lower tax bracket than when you're working, which at the time it fit the description because we had some very high tax brackets leading up to, until then. Um, as high as 94% one time, right after World War II in 1944. So imagine that. So you had a lot going on, right? And then you had Reagan come in, who deregulated everything, who did trickle down economics, which basically said, okay, we're going to charge the highest tax bracket is 28%, but that's the tax, excuse me, the tax rate, but the tax brackets, change. So anybody that made over, I'm throwing out an arbitrary number right now. Anybody that made over $18,000 was taxed at the highest tax bracket. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta pay attention to that when these presidents and politicians are coming up and they're talking about tax brackets and tax rates, effective tax rate, marginal tax. It's so much to unpack there, and we need to understand that from a tax standpoint, from an economic standpoint. Like there's so much teaching that needs to be done inside the home for the adults, for the children, for the teenagers. We're not getting these lessons in school, and it's by design, right? So unless you're going into finance as a major, you're not getting any of this. You might get a basic accountant one class or something like that, teaching you basically balance sheets, income statements, et cetera, how to read that, which is very valuable, by the way. But you're not really getting a crash course on how this country works and how capitalism works and the things that you need to do to put yourself in position to be ahead and to produce generational wealth. Um, I talk about it very passionately every day. One of the best financial tools, financial planning tools that's available is properly structured life insurance, right? And people overlook that so often. Um, but when that's structured properly for the right reasons, it might be the best financial instrument out here in terms of creating wealth, transferring wealth, and giving $1 many jobs, right? So that goes in addition to other financial planning pieces, which could be, your stock account, your long-term care, your tax mitigation strategies, et cetera. So it's a lot to dissect, but we got to start having those conversations early and often, and starting off very basic, right? So what I just said is some more complex things that we'll all, grow and evolve into. But a lot of people don't even understand, like I said earlier, banking, and being banked and not being, unbanked and underbanked, right? We got to kill this people going to check cashing places and all of this and getting a check cashing card. And what is that doing? Why are you paying a middleman a processing fee for that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really off of the knowledge that we don't have. It's us becoming financially literate on a level that makes sense. I really am hopeful, and I'm saying hopeful because I know we've been here before. We didn't get taught the information in our textbooks, but I'm really hopeful of an education reform. I think it's okay to let everybody have access to everything because it's only going to be certain people that go and get it anyways. We've learned that really quickly. I've learned that everybody that starts to raise isn't going to finish in the same spot. But there are a few people that if they had this knowledge, they would go after it a little harder. If they had the understanding of what to do and how to place money, they would go after it a little harder. So I'm just hopeful that there will be things. And I know that you are working on several projects, one really big one that is really trying to re-educate and rebirth life into financial literacy, how money works for you, what can money do for you as a tool. And I'm just hopeful that people continue to pump that into the communities because they need it more than ever. One thing I always think about is just like how would the world run differently if we had more of the same starting points. Like if we really had a glance at equity, how would it go? And this is one place that even if folks don't give you the game, like it's out here, it's fast, it's readily available. Like you said, you were listening to a podcast on the way to work. Man, get into these podcasts. We have the Boardroom show, it's bi-weekly. Like get into information where you can learn some new gems. And somebody told me before, you dropping big jewels. These are big jewels that people pay a lot of money for. Like when you sit down with somebody, they're paying money for this information, and it's stuff that there is being given away. YouTube Academy, I said YouTube can teach you a million things. I found some really solid pieces on YouTube that just help you gain more knowledge. And I think that's the overall the statement of it is gaining knowledge. Um, and that's fact.
Yeah, the information's out there. It's just, I think the hard part is a lot of this goes back to behavioral finance and understanding the why and basically unlearning and relearning. You got to unlearn everything you've ever been taught about damn near everything, especially money, right? Coming from our community. So the information's out there and we're giving it away. I have no problem telling people what I know because it's not a threat to see someone else, and their family do better. How is it a threat to me and my family? You know what I'm saying? There's so much money out here. There's so much opportunity out here. It's not scarce. I don't have a scarcity mindset. So I want to empower as many people as I possibly can on what they need to be doing. And I'm a living example. I'm not going to tell you to do something I'm not doing.
Yeah. And there are benefits in following some of these protocols and these recipes for how you want to play with money. I guess if you want to look at it, and some of the recipes can be what we talk about it often. Have you put a lot of money into? We talked about, you mentioned Apple. You put a lot of money into Apple. Own some stock or shares from Apple. Like, make it make sense. Own something that you can go in and get the dividend check back, or get a difference, and then you got Nike, and then you buy your Jordans with the Nike dividends that you get a check from. Like, it's no longer your cash that is buying stuff that is helping somebody else get rich. It's really you're putting money back in your own pocket. And I think if we can think that way, how can I get money back into my own pocket, but also give a service to somebody else? Because rightfully so, you putting your money in trust in a whole nother company and brand, so they're going to work hard and do hard for that piece of it. So it works itself together. It's really just getting ourselves into those conversations, and I'm thankful that we're able to do that too.
And part of the magic is I got clients. So this is just a little peek inside of some of the investment strategies we use with our clients. I got clients that have dividend portfolios where they'll say, Jared, here's $1 million, and they'll put $1 million in, and I'm just throwing arbitrary numbers out there, right? And it might generate, you know, $50,000, $60,000 a year for them of dividend income that they take, and that creates a retirement stream for them. They're not worried if the stock price go up or down. They're just worried about the dividends that they're producing and dividend payout ratio of those positions, and essentially keeping their principal almost the same. It's just taking the dividends out. So instead of the account growing from 1 million to 2 million to 3 million, they're just taking the income, and the principal that they originally invested is still there. There's all kind of different things that go on, man. You could buy so much of a stock, a Verizon or AT&T stock, to the dividends will literally make your phone bill every year. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way we got to start thinking about stuff. When I earn my money, I got to deploy those little soldiers. Dollars to me are soldiers. I'm the general. You know what I'm saying? They're soldiers. I got to deploy. You got a job to do up there. You got a job to do up there. Everybody got a job to do.
Right.
That's my job. We are all CEOs and CFOs of our own families. And we got to start looking at it like that. We got to drive and captain the ship. You can't just get money in and spend money like it's going out of style. Because the problem that I've seen with a lot of people, Kenyelle, Dr. Classic, that look like us, is they are Henry's, high income earners, right? Not rich yet. And they take all that income and they're buying stuff, liability stuff that look cool, make you look wealthy, all of this stuff. But in actuality, they should be buying assets. They should be buying money. I always say, buy money. Use my money to buy money. And that's buying stocks. That's buying real estate. That's buying land. It's buying other assets that produce money. So that's the mindset that we have to have going into this. Because if you make a lot of money, you spend a lot of money, your net worth hasn't increased zero, right? Net worth is defined by assets. Assets are stock portfolios, business interests, land, real estate. Those are assets, not I make $350,000 a year. That goes on an income statement. That's how much income or revenue that's coming in. You see what I'm saying? Back to accounting 101. Yeah. These are things that people never tell you. So quite often what I'll see from my Henrys, high income earners, not rich yet people, in their early mid-30s that's making 6 figures plus is they're making a lot of money. They're traveling the world. They're doing great things. They're creating memories, which is important as well. Don't get it twisted. But they have a negative net worth because they owe 130,000 in student loan debt because they got their bachelor's, master's, doctorate. You know what I'm saying? And now they tack on a mortgage of 350 on top of that. So the net worth is negative, even though they have great cash flow coming in into everybody that's in their family who also don't know any better. Think like, oh, she doing good, girl. Just call her up. She gonna have to help me this month to do this. When in actuality, she's not building any wealth. And it's going to be a while before she builds some wealth. First of all, she got to wake up and understand that she's not building wealth and make a change, right? And choose a direction to go to say, hey, look, I got to stop all this frivolous spending. Let me acquire some wealth to now pay for the luxury things and the memories I want to create and the things I want to do.
Point taken. Like one of the things that you mentioned, and hopefully we can hear it as a message, is like really get rid of, transition your mind into thinking because it looks good, it is good. Sometimes we have to be disciplined and really tack on things in the asset column that won't be, the nice cars or the $350,000 homes. Pay debts off to yourself. Like one thing that I have been really interested in hearing when I've been talking finances, what do you know what your finances really mean? Like it's new to come to it and say, because as a homeowner, this isn't a asset for me. Like that, where that one sentence is, because we've been taught, buy a home, you have a built-in asset. Like they sell it to you like that. So it's not an asset for me, but how can I pay my debts off to myself that are hurting me? How do I go back and look at things that are on my credit to get that into a space where credit can work for you? And not in the way that you get more debt, but just that you have a good enough rate or credit rating that you can get a good enough insurance or APR rate at the end of the day. Like those are where we kind of get weird. Like it's one of those things where like, I want to put money in a stock and run and grow. And you haven't taken away some of those things that are negatively impacting you from being wealthy or financially free because they're always still tacked on you. So really opening up your entire financial book. What's what? Draw a line in the middle of the paper. What things need to be taken care of? What things are assets? Where are my liabilities? Where can I put into my assets? And then really understanding that balance sheet. I have not in my life looked at balance sheets more than I have more recently. And it's a really telling story. Are you cash poor? Do you use a lot of credit? Are you hoping that things come together for you in Q4 and everything hits ahead? Like, how are you living life? Are you living check to check? Those are conversations that if you don't stop and have them, they get put on autopilot and your money is never making more money for you, which we don't want to be caught doing that.
Man, if you run your life like a business, right? And like you said, okay, every business, I'm in business, you're in business, every corporation's in business. There's something called quarterly earnings, right? So every quarter they have what is called guidance, where Wall Street analysts are say, we expect you to be here, showing this amount of growth, blah, blah, blah. You either hit or you miss that. That's how corporations work, publicly traded corporations. Me as a person in my personal household, I work the same way. Okay, a quarter is 3 months. What is my short-term 3-month goal? What are some things that I'm trying to accomplish? Either I hit those benchmarks or I didn't. You know what I'm saying? And it really comes down to that and being very myopic and saying, okay, this is how I'm going to live my life quarterly. What are things that's important that I want to make sure I accomplish this quarter? What are my savings goals, my investing goals? What are my debt payoff goals, et cetera? And break it down to small pieces, and then even break that down even further. Okay, well, where do I need to be monthly to make sure I am where I need to be at the end of 3 months? What do I need to do weekly? What are the amounts of money that I need to be putting away, every single week? And just think of that, how am I spending my day? Is what I'm doing revenue producing, or is it busy work? Is what I'm doing, making me better off, or is it keeping me the same? And if you stay the same, you're dying. You're either growing or dying. There's no stagnation. You get what I'm saying? And it's just, and some people got to micromanage themselves. I've even seen people that will check in hourly, like, man, what did I do last hour? Was that productive, or did I spend 37 minutes scrolling? You get what I'm saying? Like, whatever works for you, you got to do that.
You hit it right on the head. Whatever works for you, you have to do that. Like, find out what level is your game up. I got into a place where just simple things like your schedule. If I have a day where I really blow my schedule off, I really feel terrible on the inside because you end up looking at how much time you wasted. That's what I read off of my schedule. When it's no gray areas, yeah, it's a long day, but that's me spending and having the opportunity to make money work for me in a way that my business structure needs it to meet goals. And really, the goals are outcomes for the clients, right? The goals aren't just for me to be a wealthy person. The only way that I meet the financial goals is because I'm doing
Mhm.
something for the client facing goals. So I'm with you 100%. That makes sense to me. Like, you really have to get into a place of building, growing knowledge, having an understanding of what cards are you playing with. Your hand has been dealt. You have it in front of you. How are you really trying to get, your 7 books? Because it's possible to get them. It's really going to be about what we do in our discipline and our time. I wanted to speak a little bit about that. And we talked about it, just looking at your preparation as the goal for what you're working at. Like, preparation is not punishment. It's really just a discipline you need to be ready for the season that you're asking yourself to be a part of. That can be financially. Most times it's financially, because when we get more money, it doesn't take away more problems. It actually brings us more problems if we don't know what we're going to do with the money. Yes, I want to be a millionaire. Yes, I want to be a billionaire. Yes, I want to be a business owner. And I want to make this much money every quarter or every year. Once you get that money in hand, what are you going to do with the money? What's the plan for the money? Always have a plan for the money. Otherwise, it's creating more problems and ultimately more debt.
You got to have a plan before the money start coming in too.
Yeah.
Because if it start coming in and you don't have no plan, it's gonna leave just as fast or slow as it came in. Um, back to the schedule thing. Like, I schedule everything in my life from, date night to, dropping my son off at daycare to the times that I'm on the phone calling clients, the times I'm following with emails, the time I call it my go time where I'm meeting clients, where all I'm doing is meeting clients, talking to clients, doing that segment of the business. I got time where I'm working on my other business that I have with my other partner. So there's things that you have to adhere to. And one thing is for sure is that you're going to be like, man, I had a busy day. Like you said, I got a lot on my plate. This is a lot. And you're going to do those things, because if you don't, then you're wasting time. And to me, that's like an insult to God or whoever you believe in, because we only got a finite amount of time on this earth and we don't know when it's up. So how would you feel if you wasted 20 years and you die on 20 years in the 31st day? Like, I'm just saying, like, you don't know. You got to maximize this.
You don't know. Well, excellent, awesome conversation. Uh, Honestly, if you haven't gotten any small gem, big jewel out of this conversation, replay the message, because it's a lot of them in it. There are things that we can talk about. The boardroom is a space to really think about what is the corporate structure that needs to be applied to our everyday, deal and
Right,
walking
right.
every day, right?
Absolutely.
Before we get out of here, before we cut loose, is there anything that we have to mention before we get up out the boardroom?
Um, I just want to tell people to take some time to themselves and clearly define what's important to them, right? So write out your goals, write out the why behind them, because the why is more important than the what. So if you want to make a lot of money or you want to make 6 figures, why is that important? What does that mean for your family to make 6 figures? And once you start, writing that out and visualizing that, now that comes to life. Now that's breathable, right? Now that's something that you can feed into and commit to every single day, because if I make 6 figures, my son or daughter can go to private school. We're living in this type of house in this type of neighborhood. We have disposable income. We're not worried about our bills being met. So now you're starting to tie that to things that you can really feel and that's actionable, versus just saying, I want to make a lot of money or I want to lose some weight. Okay, well, why do you want to lose some weight? Like, you got to get the why behind the what to bring these goals to life. And then you also have to wake up and go to bed with those things on your mind. Simple mind trick, mind hack that I got from Jim Quick. It's another podcast. I listen to about, the functionality of the brain and how to learn quicker and things like that is whatever. So if you got a daily affirmation and it's written down somewhere, if you read that before you go to bed, subconsciously, you're still thinking about that, even though consciously you don't think you're thinking about anything. Ideas come to you in the middle of the night, things come to you. You wake up and you read that affirmation again. It has to be written down, it can't be anything in your head, you know, and then that just it brings the law of attraction to things. It's kind of like whatever you focus on, you see. It's like when you buy a new car, I bought an Audi and I was like, man, I didn't see many of them. And then as soon as I got mine, that's all I feel like I see. Like there's no other cars on the road but Audi. You know what I'm saying? So think about that about success or weight loss or finding the perfect partner. If that's all you're focusing on, then that's what you're going to see. If you're focused on opportunity, you're going to see opportunity. If you're focused on negativity, which we get that from every angle in society, that's all you're going to see. Man, Chicago's so bad. I'm not going there. All they do is shoot and kill and steal and rob. I'm not going there. What about Chicago being the third biggest city in the United States of America, and how much money transfers through there, and how many successful people come through there, how many successful businesses are there? You know what I'm saying? Change your mindset. What you focus on is what you're going to get.
And we want you to focus on finances. We are at the end of the Boardroom session, and what you just said is exactly the audience we're looking for. Slow down, pay attention to it, get it in line, get your fears in order, understand what's a hindrance, a hurt, a liability to you, and understand how to stack the asset column. So until next time, I am Dr. Classic with Mr. Finance. Thank you for joining us in the Boardroom, and the mission is the mission. Let's talk about it.